Yo, what's up guys, it's Khraze here, back with some more Marvel's Avengers updates, and today we have a big one, baby. The all-awaited content update is finally here, and it comes in the form of patch 1.3.3, coming in with a massive list of changes, new content, bug fixes, fine-tuning, so let's jump right into it. Now, first things first, let's talk about the release timing. It should drop on both the PlayStation and the Xbox sometimes later today at around 11 AM PDT. On the Steam version, it's going to arrive a little bit later at 3 PM PDT, and on the Stadia, probably never, if you know what I mean. I'm just kidding, by the way. It should arrive eventually, so if you're a Stadia user, don't worry, eventually it will drop for you as well. I am just joking. Now, let's talk about some of the highlights. Of course, the update 1.3.3 will introduce the all-awaited new content, which comes in the form of the Tachyon Rifts and the Shield Substation Zero to the Avengers initiative. But this will start tomorrow and not actually today, so this new content will actually start tomorrow. In the meantime, we have a bunch of bug fixes, fine-tuning, and several high quality of life changes and playability improvements across both the main campaign as well as the Avengers initiative, which is the online component. Now, we are going to go over the full list of patch notes, but here are some of the patch highlights in case you are in a hurry. So first things first, they finally added a remote faction terminal on both of the outposts, which basically allows you to collect all of the faction assignments and the villain sector bounties likewise without needing to visit each of the faction NPCs in person, and instead you can just do it from one single place. On the same note, they've also extended the pickup radius for reward drops. They finally added the ability to preview cosmetics from the vendor NPCs before having to actually purchase them. They have increased the movement speed when you're on your outpost during the Avengers initiative, which should make traveling through it a lot better. They've made AI companion improvements, including assistance when players need to be revived, and the next one is actually the one that just takes the cake: improved Mega Hive rewards. They now guarantee to give 2 exclusive exotic gear items and an increased amount of upgrade modules upon completion, which sounds really awesome. 2 exotic guarantees is absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to play those Mega Hives again, even though they are a little bit boring, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit boring, but now since they do give some exotics, it is most definitely worth it. And finally, they've implemented a fix that will retroactively grant Iron Man's iconic outfit for players who previously lost it due to a bug, and there's some other changes to closed captions in there too, but I'm not going to talk about that too much. Now, this is going to be the update 1.3.3, but there's also a patch 1.3.4 which is already underway, and this will include several quick match fixes and improvements, further reward tuning, and of course new UI options, which I'm really glad that they are considering. Now, we do have the full patch notes right here, so let's go over everything because this includes both the new content and a lot of changes to existing content. So the 2 pieces of content that we're getting with the new update 1.33 is going to be the Shield Substation Zero outpost and of course those Tachyon Rift missions. Now, the Shield Substation Zero outpost has opened to investigate new temporal anomalies that have begun forming across the world, a space that offers new narrative, characters, and content. You can find Shield Substation Zero in the Pacific Northwest on the war table, and it's likely that we will travel to it pretty much exactly like how we travel to other outposts like the Helicarrier or the Ant Hill. On the second note, we also have those Tachyon Rift missions. You will investigate the temporal anomalies by taking on the new Tachyon Rift missions, which are the first place players can get cosmic gear into, finally adding in the game the all-awaited cosmic gear. The Tachyon Storm will damage players over time, but charges heroic energy at an increased rate. With the Meridian modifier active, players can pass through temporal anomalies to extend the time you can spend within a Tachyon Rift. A late game offering, Tachyon Rift missions require 140 power level or higher, and of course superheroes to play. These missions are available once per day and rotate out daily, but it does sound quite interesting, so we are definitely going to drop in with some new video once they actually update my game, and I'm going to show you everything when it comes on the 15th. So this is going to drop on the 15th. Now, we've talked about bug fixes, so here is a huge list of them. I'm going to go over the ones that are more important, and if you want to read the rest, I'm going to just leave a link down below that you can follow for the original post. First things first, they have finally addressed multiple causes of infinite loading screens, so hopefully this fixes it for good, because I haven't heard that many people in a while to actually have this problem. They've also addressed multiple crash crash issues that were plaguing people's games, and they've also made some changes to the save data. They've improved the save data integrity as well as reliability of backup saves used immediately after completing the reassemble campaign. On top of it all, they also made some companion changes. So for example, they will now finally help you hold an area in Warzone missions during the code validation phase. Do note that they will still not activate the small code terminals to prevent them from accidentally messing with your progress, so that is a change that you need to note of. They've also improved the companion assistance when players need to be revived, so they should come in handy a lot more often, and they have increased the chances of a successful parry from a companion. Of course, we've talked about those remote faction terminals now being available on the outpost, so I'm not gonna talk about them anymore. They've also prevented the majority of the causes of enemies actually getting stuck behind doors during missions, like especially during the hives. I'm sure that many of you have hit this kind of wall, no pun intended, in the past. We are actively working to resolve the remaining bug triggers, so you might still encounter them, but on a more rare occasion. Going over the more important changes in the user interface section, as I've said, players can now finally preview cosmetic vendor items, so now you can see how the item looks before having to purchase it, so that's going to be a really nice quality of life change. And on top of this, they've also made tactical awareness mode to stay on for longer than before. And from this point on, it's just a bunch of stuff about localization and stuff, so you're probably not gonna care too much about it. Now for the combat, there's a bunch of changes over here. Like for example, there was a bug that caused some players to not be immune to damage immediately after reviving, so now that's going to be fixed. They fixed a rare issue where Black Widow would lose Veil of Shadow buffs shortly after triggering, so she won't stay in that invisibility cloak of hers. They fixed an issue where Iron Man counter fire would not always trigger after evading. That's, by the way, a skill that you need to pick actively before it actually works. They've also improved Captain America's melee combo flow. I'm really curious about this one. They've refactored the modifiers Fist Cuffs and Torpedo to only buff the players, not the enemies. I'm pretty sure that Fist Cuffs was the one that increases your melee damage and Torpedo was the one that buffs ranged attacks. I might be mistaken, but let me know in the comment section down below. In the meantime, for the spin drones, they have tuned heroic drain inflicted by the spin drones, and I think that this is the second time they actually fine-tuned these spin drones, because I think they also added normal attacks to them in a previous update. They've also tuned difficulty in Alone Against Aim mission, and finally they did a bunch of really awesome tunes to other enemies, including the defensive effects of blue overshields on the enemies should be a little bit better, so you don't take that much time to take their shields down. And finally, the cryo adaptoid slam attack should in theory not one-shot you anymore as much as it did in the past. Let's talk about gear, because there's a ton of gear changes, challenge changes, rewards changes. Of course, we already talked about the fact that we have that retroactive grant of the Iron Man iconic outfit to players that previously lost it, so now you should be able to see it. They've also fixed an issue where hero challenge card rewards were being scaled by difficulty. They re-enabled skipping challenges from the hero challenge card screen, which was a bug that if you had it in the past, it would basically completely erase all of your progress with those challenge cards. They've also did some fixes to some of the suits for certain characters, like for example the fractured hull skin now properly unlocks and is accessible in the outfits menu, and there's some other ones like the unbroken Hulk skin, and there's also a fix for that in there too. But I do want to talk about the ones that are more important. So they have further tuned some of the exotic gear to be power level appropriate when earned, and they've also improved exotic gear attributes once more when they already did so in the past, and you should no longer occasionally get power level 1 gear from the elite hives. This is the second time this issue gets resolved, so hopefully this stays fixed finally for good. And they've also improved reliability of Normstorm perks that increase drop chance or added extra rewards to loot tables. I've talked about these in the past. These are amazing if you want to get extra loot, but if you didn't see that already, I'm going to post some links down below to some of the previous videos. Outside of these, the only other notable changes are maybe for the PC version. They finally introduced NVIDIA DLSS, which is basically what is that, like an anti-aliasing method of well, just basically basically applying anti-aliasing to your game without consuming almost any resources at all and still being absolutely amazing. So we're gonna need an RTX card for that, I believe, but it is going to be super helpful. I'm playing on a PS4, so for me it's not going to be an issue. But this is the update. It looks amazing. There's more coming on the way. Of course, once we get the new content, I'm gonna cover it here on this channel. I'm gonna give you my first impressions and everything you need to know about them. For now, these are the patch notes. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope to see you guys in game, and peace.